Once upon a time, there was a mobile phone that ruled the pockets and hearts of millions. A phone that didn't need a touch screen, didn't require daily charging, and never made you anxious about a shattered display. That phone was the legendary Nokia button phone. If you ever held one in your hand, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Solid, simple, reliable. It didn't come with fancy apps or a high-resolution camera, but it came with something far more powerful. Trust, durability, and the charm of simplicity. In a world where smartphones now dominate every corner of our lives, there was a time when a small device with a tiny monochrome screen and a few rubbery buttons was enough to make you feel connected to the world. You didn't need to scroll endlessly. You didn't need to charge it 3 times a day. You didn't even need a protective case, because it was already indestructible. Drop it, toss it, forget it in your pocket during a rainy day, it would still be alive, still ready to make a call or send a message. The ringtone of that Nokia mobile is still etched in memory. The classic tune that would ring from across the room, instantly recognizable and strangely comforting. It wasn't just a sound, it was a signal that someone wanted to talk. Not send a meme, not share a reel, just talk. There was a magic in those moments. Messages were typed with the T9 keypad, letter by letter, pressing the same button 3 times just to get the right character. It sounds tiring now, but back then, it was thrilling. Every text message felt like a crafted note. Every beep felt like a conversation waiting to happen. Then there was the game. Yes, the game. Snake. A pixelated line that slithered across the screen, growing longer with each dot you ate. It didn't have flashy graphics, no 3D effects or complicated missions. But it was addictive. More addictive than many of today's mobile games. It was about timing, patience, and pure fun. And beating your own high score felt like a real achievement. Battery life was another miracle. Days would pass without charging. You could take your Nokia button phone on a trip, leave the charger behind, and still be fine. That level of freedom doesn't exist anymore. Today, we are tied to power banks and charging cables. Back then, a single full battery meant peace of mind. And how can we forget the flashlight? That little white LED on top, activated by pressing a button, became a savior during power cuts and dark alleys. It wasn't very bright, but it was always there when you needed it. Like a dependable friend, Nokia button phones were not just communication tools. They were cultural icons, passed from older siblings to younger ones. Given as first phones, used by parents, grandparents, and even by those who didn't like technology but trusted Nokia. They symbolized a time when people used phones for calling, not for endless distractions. A time when eye contact was more common than screen time. When conversations were more about voices than emojis. And let's talk about the build. Tough doesn't even begin to describe it. The Nokia button phone was practically a brick. Drop it from a staircase, let it fall off a moving bike, it would still work. In fact, people used to joke that the floor would break, not the Nokia phone. Those jokes were half true. It was a piece of engineering that prioritized function over fashion. And that's what made it iconic. Every part of that phone was purposeful. The small green and red buttons to accept or reject calls. The physical keypad that gave a satisfying click with every press. The tiny screen that did its job without complaining. It didn't need updates. It didn't crash. It just worked. Even today, in rural areas or among elders, you'll find someone using a Nokia button phone. Not because they don't have access to smartphones, but because they value reliability over trends. That says something about the legacy of Nokia's classic design. It was a phone made for people. Not for showing off. Not for capturing every moment. But for living them. There's a certain nostalgia that comes with remembering the Nokia button mobile. It reminds us of simpler days. Of real conversations. Of limited choices but deeper experiences. You didn't need 1,000 apps to be happy. Just one call from someone you love was enough. Just one text saying, "I'm home," meant the world. Technology has moved forward. Phones today are smarter, faster, and more capable than ever. But somewhere in that race, we lost a bit of soul. A bit of simplicity. The Nokia button phone represents that soul. It reminds us that sometimes, less is more. That durability, clarity, and purpose can be more valuable than flashy features. So the next time you see someone holding a classic Nokia, smile. Because that phone isn't just a device. It's a memory. A connection to a time when life was unplugged, and yet more connected than ever. The Nokia button phone wasn't just made of plastic and circuits. It was made of stories. Your first love. Your first job call. The text you waited all day to receive. The missed call from your mom when you stayed out too long. That phone was part of growing up. Part of growing old. And even though the world has changed, its place in history remains solid. Strong. Just like the phone itself.